Hi, my name is Garrett Nuzzo, and I will be discussing a performance improvement for my organization, SOCWA, and more specifically, this will be an improvement in operational efficiency. So as I said, the organization is SOCWA, and that stands for the South Orange County Wastewater Authority. We are a public health and environmental protection agency, and we have 52 employees, and we are publicly funded. We are part of a joint powers agreement, so there are a bunch of other agencies combined with us, and we have a common board, and that's how we get our funding. And everything has to pass through the board, whether it be a construction project or a new piece of equipment. All of that has to come through the board and with the board approval because we are using taxpayer dollars. What do? We treat residential and industrial wastewater for ocean discharge and for reclamation. The reclaimed water is distributed to municipalities and public facilities such as golf courses. So the water is not potable water for drinking. It is mostly for irrigation and things like that. We do have self-sustaining facilities, and we do so by producing energy from the waste. So the liquid part of the treatment gets recycled through irrigation water, and then the solids that we remove from the water coming into our plants is it goes through a anaerobic digestion process where we produce methane gas, and we harness that methane gas to produce energy in our cogeneration engines. So our facilities are self-sustaining. The service area that we service is in South Orange County, and specifically the facility I work at is in Laguna Beach. So we service Laguna Beach, Laguna Niguel, Aliso Viejo, Dana Point, in that general area. And I have received authorization to conduct this study from James Jones, who is the SOCWA Chief Plant Operator at the Coastal Treatment Plant. And this slide that I'm looking at right now and that you're looking at kind of shows a general overview of how the wastewater comes through our plants and the whole treatment process. And I think my head is actually blocking the end product of the water section, but this is basically just the distribution to golf courses and things like that. So for SOCWA, efficiency seems to be the issue. And I have a little quote that I liked: effectiveness is doing the right thing, and efficiency is doing the thing right. So let's talk about some of the symptoms of the issue. We do see a lot of excess time consumption inputting data. I've heard excess time consumption retrieving data, and data from logbooks for mechanical rounds and facilities rounds, things like that. The treatment process in general, all of those notes. Mistakes made going unnoticed for too long. Operator parameters are not set. Corrective operational procedures are delayed. Increased energy consumption and increased chemical consumption. So all of this is kind of the general area of issue, and these all have to do with efficiency. So who is involved in this, I guess, issue would be the facilities operations staff, the chief plant operators, human resources, and director of operations. And the reason I say those last two, human resources and director of operations, is because we need approval from them to, I guess, do anything about the whole process and how we go about making that change. So how can we assess success of improvement suggestions? Surveying operations staff while focusing on time allocation, examining data including percent error reduction, examining data including billing, so billing for our chemical usage and electricity, and examine the percent difference between the set points that we operate at and the actual operations. So what would be ideal and how we are actually operating. So this section right here is going to be talking about the kind of initial interview questionnaire that I gave out. And I distributed it just to a handful of employees that were kind of the key players in this whole operations procedure. So some of the questions were, what have you noticed is the most time-consuming part of your or your staff's day, and what makes this so time-consuming? If you had the power to immediately enact an organizational improvement, what would increase efficiency, and what would that look like? In a perfect world, explain how you would maintain optimal operating parameters, and explain how a universal centralized database and logging system would impact efficiency. So the purpose of these questions was to assess the problems in efficiency, and specifically what was going on in the operating process, and if they had any immediate recommendations or immediate areas that stood out to them that made this process inefficient. So like I said, it was only distributed to a handful of people. So some of them were the chief plant operators at the coastal and the regional plants. And, they're kind of in charge of the plant, and their name is on the permit. So they play a major role in this. And then a plant operator was also distributed the questionnaire. So let's go over the analysis. So looking at the analysis for the first question in this survey, there was a theme, and it was regarding time consumption. So each of the respondents brought up time consumption, and it kind of centralized around the data collection process. So that would be collecting data from all of the paper round sheets that are, at the various stations and pieces of equipment in the plant, and centralizing that into the actual electronic database. And it was cool to see that each of the respondents stated that there are unnecessary steps in this process, because at the end of the day, the process is what we are trying to work on. 2 out of the 3 respondents narrowed down their main concern to the transfer of data from multiple paper forms into the computer system. And the chief plant operators both stated that they did not receive the collected data within their desired time frame. So the chief plant operators are the ones in charge of making the final decisions and changing the parameters based on the data coming in, and they feel they're not receiving that data in time to make that change. So that's significant. All right, analysis of question number 2. So the theme of this question was centralized around changes that would eliminate mistakes. Mistakes were reported to not only lead to wasted time, but wasted resources, so chemicals and electricity, things like that. Each of the respondents stated that mistakes were most often made in the inputting data phase, and that affects the parameters that we set. So if you input the wrong data, you're going to see, our targets are going to be off, or what we are actually doing is going to be off from our target. So that affects our parameters and overall efficiency of how we operate. 2 of the respondents wanted to change the way data is collected by implementing some sort of electronic data system. So that was a great recommendation. Okay, analysis of question number 3 and number 4. The analysis for the last 2 questions, all 3 participants stated that their optimal performance would be achieved based off of accurate data. Each chief operator stated that performance data would be immediately available. 2 stated that the laboratory analysis data would be immediately available. A system that flags incongruent data was also mentioned. There was not a single mention of paper documentation in any of the optimal processes, which is the current standard. So that's a huge indicator that maybe something needs to change. And all stated that a centralized electronic data and logging system is a top priority. So this is the as-is process flowchart. And, I'm not going to walk through each step, but as you can see, it's kind of a lengthy process, and there are a lot of arrows that lead back to the very beginning. A lot of repetitive action here. Specifically, I feel like some of the problems are in the data checking phase. So for instance, if you look at the purple triangles where it says data okay, there's yes or no. And if the data is not okay, you have to go and look, okay, is the data lab related? And if it's not, you're going to have to go start all the way back at the beginning to your plant rounds, because by the time you get to analyze the data, you're already completed with your plant rounds. You're back in the operations room. So that's not optimal. Optimally, you'd be able to analyze the data on the spot while you're out there so you can double check it immediately. So that's a repetitive action problem right there. And then you look at another box where it says parameter change, and that's going to be related to the chief operator analyzing the data. And once again, repetitive action. No, if it's a no, parameter change, you're done. But if you do need a parameter change based off the data, the chief has to co-reference the logbooks, which were mentioned to be a huge problem, those paper logbooks. Retrieving data from those logbooks is a problem, and it consumes a lot of time and efficiency. So those are kind of like the highlights right there of the as-is process flowchart and some of the problems. So the next thing we'll be looking at is the data collection questionnaire, which I distributed to 18 of the operations staff at the various plants. So 2 different plants here at SOCWA. And we'll just kind of run through it. So some demographics, how long have you been in the industry, and how long have you been using a smart device? And then we got into more of the specific questions. So giving a score on a scale of 1 to 5 based on how time consuming the following process steps are. 1 is very little time consumption, 5 is extremely time consuming. So those questions are transferring utility reads and equipment rounds data into the computer system, time between collecting samples to receiving lab data, time between analyzing data and correcting incorrect data, retrieving data from past entry forms and logbooks. And the next 4 questions were the perceived benefit to the organization. So a 1 would be, not beneficial at all, and a 5 would be extremely beneficial. So those questions were inputting data from mechanical equipment and utilities directly into the system. So replacing these with some sort of new electronic-based system. The next question, laboratory data entered directly into the system, retrieving past data from an electrical database, analyzing data, reviewing for mistakes, notifying correct personnel for mistakes. So the sample population for this questionnaire was a little more broad. Like I said, chief plant operators, lead plant operators, treatment plant operators, and a few laboratory scientists. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, these were distributed electronically via email. So going through that questionnaire, a lot of those questions were taken based off of some of the things that I read in the first questionnaire, right? Some of those recommendations and problem areas that were narrowed down. So analyzing the data, I used a Likert scale in my questionnaire so I could quantify that data, and putting measurable numbers on those responses will enable me to use tools like a Pareto chart and a histogram. Pareto charts will be used or were used to identify outlying process steps that are of highest concern. The Pareto chart identifies where the attention needs to be focused in the resolution phase. Survey questions will qualify a score of 4 or higher as a problem area. So that would be, a 3 would kind of be like neutral, and then anything above that would be an indicator that is a problem area. Histograms demonstrate the percentages of respondents who report an issue. This will provide quantified measure of the overall attitude and concern level. And this measurability is necessary in the process change. So the first analysis, we're going to look at question number 2. So analyzing the years of experience using a smartphone. So this is just kind of a cool little demographic question. And a histogram was used here to provide information regarding employee comfortability using a smart device. Smart devices are technology that we, do use a lot every day, and it could be used to phase out traditional methods of retrieving past data. So 100% of SOCWA employees reported using smart devices for more than 3 years. 50% have been using them for more than 10 years. So this is kind of an indication that SOCWA staff will be ready to transition and is capable of training on new technology when implemented, right? So a lot of the programs I've been researching do use smart devices like tablets and cell phones. So it is reassuring to see that a majority, or basically all of SOCWA staff, has been using smart devices for at least 3 years, and many of them for 10 or more years. The next analysis will be for question number 1. It's another demographic question. And this will look at years of experience in the industry. So the shifting workforce is apparent upon analysis of the bar graph. So there's a shift in SOCWA's labor force. It's a younger group of people coming in to replace a large group of people that had just retired. So the number of employees who have been in the industry longer than 10 years is outnumbered by the number of new employees. And this may be another reason why we are starting to see that shift in technology uses and such a high number of employees who do use technology and have been using it for quite some time. All right, so now we're going to be analyzing question number 3. And this is regarding time consumed transferring data. So question number 3. About half of the respondents feel that the time consumed transferring data is above average or extreme. This indicates that time consumption is an issue with the current process. And this histogram right here kind of lays it out for you right there. Okay, question number 4, it's another histogram. And this is going to be analyzing the time spent waiting to receive lab data. So 83.3% of respondents stated that the amount of time spent waiting to receive lab data was average, above average, or extreme, so extremely time consuming. And that was pretty significant because it shows that there's definitely an issue in this process. You know, the current method of data sharing is not efficient. Only 16% said that this was, average time consuming, which would be acceptable. So that's an issue. Question number 5. This one was pretty crazy. So this is the time spent between analyzing data and correcting incorrect data. So how efficiently we are able to solve problems, or how quickly we're able to solve problems. Because again, we use our data for all of our troubleshooting and parameter setting. So roughly 89% of respondents reported above average or extreme time consumption between analyzing and correcting data. So the current analysis procedure is not an efficient use of employee time. So question number 6 analysis looks at the time consumed retrieving past data. And as you can see here, this chart kind of got flipped, but way over on the left, you have 83% of respondents saying that this is extremely time consuming, while only 17% said this was kind of middle of the road or what could be expected, the average. So this is pretty much a huge red flag here, that we are spending way too much time trying to retrieve past data, and there's a significant issue here. Question number 7 analysis. This will go into the benefit of inputting operation data directly into an electronic system rather than a paper system. So how beneficial this would be to the company. 61.1% of respondents believed inputting data would be beneficial or extremely beneficial. 11% said that there would be no benefit. So I mean, that's a pretty telling sign right there that this is desired by employees. Question number 8 analysis looks at the benefit of inputting lab data directly into an electronic system. And it looks like almost 78% of respondents believe this would be extremely beneficial, while 22% believed it would be beneficial. So clearly our current system is not the desired way of doing things. People want change, and they feel that this change would be extremely beneficial. Question number 9. We're going to analyze the reported benefit of new technology in the retrieval of past data. And this is very significant to our operations procedure. So given the information on the previous charts, these findings are not surprising. And I left the values on here, 1 through 5. And like I said, 5 would be extremely beneficial, and 4 would be very beneficial. Above average benefits. So it looks like 83% said it would be extremely beneficial implementing new technology to retrieve past data. So this indicates that since SOCWA's employees are comfortable with new technology, such as smart devices, and they feel retrieving data is extremely time consuming, they feel that the benefits of this new technology would be extremely beneficial. It's also important to note that not a single employee reported neutral or negative attitudes. So each respondent that responded to this questionnaire felt that this would be of some benefit. And question number 10 will analyze the benefit of new technology in analyzing data and correcting mistakes. So as the previous slide showed, every single respondent here believed that this would be beneficial or extremely beneficial. So this shows a strong desire for this new technology. And then an analysis of time consumption comparison. So this is a Pareto chart, and it was used to highlight the area that consumed the most time in the process. And as you can see, retrieving past data definitely took up the most time by a lot. So this data using the chart only represents respondent scores of 5, which meant extreme time consumption. So each response of extreme time consumption for the 4 questions was added and then divided as a percentage of the total extreme time consumption responses. So the Pareto chart shows that of the total reports of excessive time consumption, 65% came from issues retrieving past data. So the cumulative percentage line right there in orange, that also highlights the fact that retrieving past data disproportionately consumes employee time. This finding can be directly linked to the process chain and overall objective of the desired process change. So, to increase efficiency in our facilities, this issue should be addressed first. So let's look into some recommended changes based on the findings and analysis. So the first recommended change in optimizing efficiency would be increasing training on available technology. So 83% of employees stated that new tech data systems would be extremely beneficial in retrieving past data. 100% stated it would be either beneficial or extremely beneficial in analyzing that data and making corrections. 100% reported using smart devices for at least 3 years, and employees believe in the implementation of new technology and are experienced. Increasing training on available tech will also help them build the specific skills they need to utilize technology on the job. And increased training in tech use will aid in the transfer to a fully electronic system. Employees will have the necessary foundation of skills required prior to training on this new tech. And this, I believe, is the first step in mitigating time consumption, as it is more of a preparation phase. Now, recommendation number 2. So implementing e-logger technology for data entry. So e-logger means electronic logging, and this is one of the best programs that I was able to find, and I've been in communication with the representative and done a couple of trials, and that's why I'll be referencing e-logger throughout this presentation. So in the initial questionnaire, each respondent indicated that electronic logging and data recording was a priority in maximizing efficiency. 44% of respondents indicated above average or extreme time consumption in transferring data from the field to the current database, and 61% indicated that implementing such tech to directly input data would be either beneficial or extremely beneficial. So time wasted filling out these paper logbooks, round sheets, and entry forms will be eliminated. Data will be entered directly into a technology-based system, such as e-logger, and that'll eliminate the whole transfer process altogether. So we're taking out that process. That'll make data collection more efficient. So the need for storing paper logbooks and round sheets will also be eliminated, and that eliminates the possibility of losing data and never being able to find it again. So that's another benefit of this recommendation. The third recommendation is implementing e-logger technology for data analysis. And as you can see from the previous slides and the statistics there, 100% of respondents reported that a system such as e-logger would be either beneficial or extremely beneficial in the analysis of data. And data analysis will be immediate upon entry into the logging system, and automated data analysis will identify values that fall outside the parameters. Operators will be able to correct those mistakes immediately, and analyzed data will also be automatically delivered to the chief plant operators so they can analyze it themselves immediately. And errors in the data entry, communication, and improper analysis will then be eliminated. We're eliminating that operator error. And if there are little flags, the program will catch it and notify us immediately. So I think that is a very cool process and will eliminate some of that, a repetitive action. All right, recommendation number 4, implementing e-logger technology for data retrieval. The most reported area of issue regarding time consumption was the retrieval of past data to make appropriate parameter changes. And you can look at those statistics in those charts that I previously discussed. So analyzing data is nothing if the operators cannot reference it to the past data. E-logger technology will increase the speed and accuracy of which current and past analysis is comparable. So the need for parameter changes will be recognized much more quickly and acted upon much more efficiently. Acting on necessary practices is more efficient manner will lead to decreased electrical and chemical costs. So this is a look at the new process flowchart. It'll kind of just hang out here. You can look at it, but if you do take a look, you'll notice that a lot of the loops that lead back to the very beginning are eliminated. It addresses many of the main issues discovered in the analysis of the survey question, and they're addressed by implementing an electronic logging and data storage program. So here's just a side-by-side comparison. As you can see, not as many triangles there, or I guess diamonds, and not as many loops all the way back to the beginning. So we're kind of trying to get rid of that repetitive action. So how is this new process different? Electronic data entry provides immediate analysis of the data. Values outside of set parameters will be recognized immediately and will eliminate operator error. Staff will be able to correct mistakes while they are still out in the field, drastically improving efficiency. The lag time between error and correction will be eliminated. The process of sending and storing data will be eliminated, as this is one of the program's automated features. Staff miscommunication will be eliminated in the process. Data transfer will be eliminated as the program automatically stores inputted data. The chief plant operator will have access to data as it is entered, and there will be no wait time. Lab data will be automatically sent to the operations staff, making it available to them. Referencing past data will be as easy as typing in keywords to the system. This eliminates the need for searching through countless logbooks. Parameter changes will be executed within minutes rather than days or hours. And that summarizes our presentation. Thank you for your time. And here are just my resources that helped me along the way. So thank you.